Welcome back, guys. So just following up from Sunday's run, obviously like I said, got back home, went to flush the motor on the boat and it wasn't pumping water, so going to rip this lower unit off and check the water pump and see what's going on as to why it wasn't pumping water. Well, there's no real obvious signs as to why it shouldn't be pumping water. I mean, the impeller's still retaining its center where it engages. Sometimes they're known to spin the insides and the outside just doesn't work. A couple of them are cracked, but I've seen worse that we're still operating, so I'm not too sure as to why my motor wasn't pumping water. And also that front selector shaft seal had blown and moved up a little bit too. There's some small white traces of white oil there as well. I just pushed that back down a little bit. Yeah, it's got me baffled, but I'll just buy another water pump kit and put that in it. As for now, the big block's going on. The big block goes on and we're hitting the water. So the 3 litres just about ready to put on. While I've got the motor off here, my jack plate was sticking, so I've just flogged that with a hammer and I've greased it up and freed it up, adjusted it right down because I'm going to bolt the motor on in its highest bolt hole positions as possible. So then that'll give me more adjustment to raise the motor until we're on the verge of losing water pressure. So that's ideally the concept behind it. Yeah, about to put this 3 litre on and yeah, nip it all up and everything else. On, baby. The 2.5 is always where my heart will be, and we've got our other 2.5 that we're getting built, the other race motor, so, and that's the one I'm going to spray nitrous down as well, so it's not the end all of the 2.5. We just happen to score this 3 litre, and it'll be interesting to see how the bigger displacement on this boat goes. Like, if I can just drop it straight in and pull 80 mile, I'll be cheering. Don't be scared to have a go. Don't be scared to rip in, drop something off, pull something off, have a go, you know. Just as long as you're not pulling off blokes, that's all right. I am far from any sort of mechanic or expert in boats. Like, I've only just come into enjoying boating. Anyone can do it, and there's no better feeling than the satisfaction and enjoyment of fulfilling a task yourself. So I encourage anybody just to don't be scared, just rip in and have a go. Motor's on, wings are on. Once again, it's bloody pissing down. As you can see, we've got the big girl, the 3 litre on there. And I've just been doing some tinkering in the garage, because obviously that 3 litre is the earliest style Carby motor, and I have this spare power head here that I've picked up off a friend that did swallow a bolt and spat it out the front half of the motor. And I was told that this EFI power head had carbon reeds in it, but it doesn't seem to be, because what I was going to do is take them good carbon reeds out and put it in my motor, but in taking this front injection system off, it's revealed they're still running the steel reeds, and as you can see here, that's where it's sucked the bolt through. That bolt has then come out that front half there, and made a hole. We'll have to source some reeds now, because I would like to put a set of reeds in it. Just because everyone knows if a steel reed lets go and goes into your motor, it's toast. We'll source down some reeds, get them put in my motor while it's still carbureted before we go EFI. Also, while I got you here, I'm just going to run through, take a lot of pictures and pull all this EFI system off, so I have good reference when it comes time to putting it all onto my power head, if we make it that far. 3 litres almost ready to water test. I've just got to replace the alternator belt. You can see here it's coming away. I'm going to delete the oil metering system and eliminate that, because we're going to run premix and I've got a full tank of fuel, so I don't want that to go to waste. My 2.5 swivel brackets were too short from the wing. They need to marry up with your tilt tube here. Old aka Soy Latte's come through. He's the 3 litre guru god. He got some longer brackets for me, so you can see there how much longer they are. Just got to put the brackets on and hook up my steering cables, drain the oil out of the lower unit, put some fresh stuff in it. I'll set up my laser and we'll get the motor height set right, so we're still going to be getting good water pressure, but as high as possible, so we get ultimate performance out of the motor and peak RPM. So I've just finished rigging up my steering cable anchor points here on the wings. I've just leveled the boat up and I've leveled the motor up, and as you can see I've got a red laser here, and I'm just going to jack the motor up until this laser line here is probably at the bottom of the water hole here for the water pickup, and then I'll work out what my distance for the prop shaft height is in relation to the pad. So yeah, so ideally you want the motor as high as possible, but we always want to retain water pressure. If any of you have more details with regards to setback and motor height, feel free to clue me up on it, because I'd really like to know that. So I'll just adjust the motor height to where I feel is as safe as possible without any detriment to the possibility of running the motor out of water. Laser is level with the pad. If we come over here, you can see that laser is just at the bottom of my pickup holes. The top 2 have been plugged up. That pad line is dead level with the bottom of my holes there, which in turn transfers to my motor being about 80 mil below pad. So I'm hoping that's low enough to retain water pressure, but high enough to squeeze the most performance out of the motor. We won't really know until we get out on the water, but it's a good base starting point. I will just take note and record my water pressure levels, and therefore we'll know how far we can push it to either come up, or if we're not getting enough water pressure, to come down. So I'm just gonna nip up the jacking plate now, and I'll probably rescribe a reference mark for the 3 litre. So I'll tighten up all the jack plate, tighten up our steering wings, chuck a prop on. I'll hook the muffs up again, just make sure everything's running right, and we'll be good to drop in the water and see what the 3 litre holds. Another update for you, but it's not really a good one. I've persisted with this 3 litre only to just run into headache after headache. I took it out for a test. I did have the cameras on the boat, but I didn't catch anything worth watching. It was just me blowing up and cracking the shits, because the boat could do 75 mile an hour and then it'd just lay over. It'd just be surging like brr, brr, brr. I had my mate Chris, who's a 3-litre guru, come have a look. We done a heap of changes to the fuel system. We eliminated the standard diaphragm fuel pump and bypassed that. Still same issue. We had to recalibrate the TPS sensor, which operates off the top carburetor. That wasn't running at the correct voltage, but we got that right. Then dropped it back in, same issue. We also cranked the fuel pressure up. It sort of ran better for a little bit, but not quite well. Kept turning up, 10 psi, got worse. I'm about ready just to send this back where it came from. I'm gonna stop messing around with these carbies and all this bullshit, piss it all off, put all the EFI fuel system on, and see how that goes, because that did come off a good running motor. I just had the injectors cleaned and flowed thanks to my mate Chris, so I'm gonna reassemble this Bricado slide front and then start tearing all this off and get ready to put all the EFI system on and go from there. So I've got this Bricado slide front pulled apart in a million pieces, a fuel rail and everything. Had my injectors flowed and cleaned in the electrolysis bath, so I'll just do a time lapse and see if I can put this back together the way I took it apart. For me to finish the slide front, I have to put the reed cages back on the underside for this to bolt down, so I have to pull the reeds off the motor to replace these damaged ones. Okay, so I've pulled the carbs off the 3-litre out here, as you can see. And I think I've stumbled across the reason as to why the motor's surging and stalling up high. I've found a broken reed. All the rest are okay, but I don't know where the remnants of that broken reed have ended up. I have to do some more investigating. That could be the reason. Have it, one rebuilt Bricado slide front. I think I put it back together how it went, came apart anyway, but all the reeds are done. So that's it for another afternoon tinkering in the garage. So tomorrow when I get bored, I'll probably pull everything off the motor and start fitting up all the EFI computer and wiring harness. Another day of having a crack. That's all we can do. It's one day at a time. I was about ready to throw in the towel, but I'll keep persisting. Sometimes I don't know how I find the motivation to keep going, but we wouldn't do it unless we loved it, right? Also got a couple of new props to try. I've got that 26 4 blade. It's almost 15 inch, I think. And then I've got a Mazco mint condition 28 pitch chopper. So they're two new props. We spent every afternoon this week hooking this boat motor up. We've got the EFI system on. I've got my mate Chris here. He's a mechanic, mainly works on tractors and mopeds and dishwashers. But he's come over and he's the guru for 3 litres and helped me out. And he's run his eye over it, and apparently I've done everything right. So we're just about to do the maiden kick in the guts. So fingers crossed we've done everything right.
It only opens when the second butterfly's open.
Oh, okay, so you got ones on the back. We have success on the Bricado front there. The slide wasn't opening up, but the guru Chris has let me know that that's when the secondaries kick in, when you floor it foot to the floor. We're in business, baby. So Chris helped me get the injectors electrolysis, what's it called? Electronically clean, and then we had them flowed, and he said that they've been flowed to what, 300 specs?
Yeah,
300 specs. And the ECUs on this motor are 250 specs, but apparently they've been tweaked as well. All the hard work's somewhat paid off at the moment. Compared to the Carby, mate, I can feel the steering wheel shaking and the boat rocking, so it's definitely spiced it up more. It definitely feels like a spicy boy, so pretty happy with my efforts. It feels good when your persistence pays off, and very grateful for people like my mate Chris here to come and run his eye over it and pick up anything that I missed and what I don't know about. Can't wait to drop it in the water and test it. I forgot to mention last night, after we tested the motor for the first time, that after we discovered that it did eat one pedal of a reed, we did a complete compression test of every cylinder, and every cylinder come up as 120 psi, so that's actually really good for a 3 litre apparently. We've got 28 pitch Masco prop on. This thing hasn't even seen water before. As you can see, it's in immaculate condition. 14.5 inch diameter, 28 pitch. We'll make our way to the ramp, have our first test, and fingers crossed it all goes to plan. see from the footage when I dropped it in the water, got up to like 70 mile an hour, and then coming back slowly at like 3000 RPM, it'd just intermediately just cut out and power would drop away, stomp on and off the throttle, would come back again. A few of the people that I reference and troubleshoot problems with, they reckon could possibly be bad earth, bad power to VST pump, bad VST pump, may need to look at the TPS, throttle position sensor. Got a few more checks to do now over the EFI, but I had a smile on my face for about 10-13 minutes. Pulled between 70-75 mile an hour with that 28 pitch Mazco on, and that was at 4,800, 5,000 RPM, so still a lot of room for improvement. Was getting a little bit of chine walk, that's telling me I could raise the motor up a bit more, but once again, got a standard gearbox on, so just got to find that happy medium where it's still going to pump water, still cool the engine. Looks like it's going to be another weekend of going over things, testing things, looking at things, making sure it's all good. Yeah, it's the afternoon, thought I'd do a few tests. I've cut a wheelie bin down to make a soak tank so I can probably put it in gear and load it up, but I've turned the key on and no noise coming from my VST pump, so I should be able to hear that VST pump when I turn the key on. But oh yeah, now I can hear it. That's telling me it's not working every time off the key. So that's working. I'll just turn it off, but I'm gonna take this screw off and just drain the VST out, make sure there's no water in it. So I'll just get a container so we can check if there is water in there, it'll show up. So in doing that test, no water in there, but there is some large sediment deposits in there. You can see that there. It's like a sludgy slime. Might even just put a rag there, maybe just turn the VST on and see if it pumps any crap out of there. Couple of tests we're going to do. The only thing I haven't replaced since putting the EFI system on this from previously when it was carbureted is the alternator. I do have a spare alternator there, so whether or not this alternator isn't putting out the correct voltage for the ECU, TPS, VST, whatnot, that could be a problem. But I'm no electrical guru at all, so I'm just going to wait for my mate Chris, and we're going to test the voltage output on the alternator. We will sync up the correct voltage at what the TPS should be reading, which is here, the VST, just ensuring that whatever the power should be getting to the VST is correct, and just go over all my earths. So that's pretty much where we're at. My friends tell me this here is your pressure relief valve on the VST, and if you push that in it should squirt out in your face, but it's not squirting out in your face. I can turn the key on, we can sort of see what sort of pressure it's going to squirt out. Well, by looking at that, that's telling me it's doing what it's meant to do. So maybe the VST is good. But as we've seen when I first turned the boat on, the VST I don't think was on, but now all of a sudden it's sort of working after I've cycled it a few times. Yeah, I just keep scratching my head because we've just persisted and chipped away at this, but haven't had any good results. Only thing I haven't replaced on this whole motor since taking all the carby shit off is the alternator. Got a gut feeling maybe that's it. Get a multimeter and we'll check the rating on that. And welcome back to more updates. Mr. 3 litre himself, Chris has come through. He's got me his VST off his motor. Very appreciative of that. We've swapped that over with the one I had. But a couple of other little things that I noticed while I was pulling my VST off, pulling the VST off, not me.
Lightweight, baby. Nothing but a peanut. Woo! Yeah, buddy!
Pulling this VST off is just little things, like minor things that sometimes don't get picked up on. There's a tiny crack, I don't know if you can see that, whether or not it's losing pressure and just not operating at 100%. These are just little things that can be overlooked. I'll have that ready for when this weather clears up and the rain goes away and we get a break. We'll be straight back down the ramp and to testing those changes. We also got the multimeter and tested my alternator, and it's putting out 14.5 volts. Quickly done that in the rain last night, but one last thing to check also will be the TPS and ensuring that that's where it needs to be as well. Here we are, it's been another afternoon. I've got this new VST pump on that my mate Chris lent me, and I kicked the motor in the guts and it started straight away. But what happened was it was like idling on nearly 3000 RPM. I had to kill it straight away. And what I've come to see is the butterflies in the back of the VST here are opened like 3 or 4 mil, which isn't good. And then what I've come to realize is the slide mechanism that runs up behind the VST in here, it's hitting the bracketry on the back of the VST, which in turn is holding that butterfly open, which it isn't meant to do. If I can get it to work here for you. See, it's not closing all the way. I've just referred back to the old VST, and I've noticed that they have notched out the VST here in order for that rail to come up and let the butterflies sit closed where they're meant to be. So the VST's got to come off again, and I'm going to have to modify the bracket on the back of this VST. I won't chew it out as much as this one's been chewed out, but I'll get a die grinder and I'll just give that a buzz where that pivot arm is hitting, and we'll be able to reinstall it and ensure those butterflies are closed all the way where they're meant to be. When I pull this VST pump apart, we'll see what sort of condition that the actual fuel pump and the micron filter in the bottom of it is like. My mate Chris also provided me with another pump here. So as you can see there, it's got a filter on the bottom like that. And we also have another filter here that Chris has provided me with. Very thankful for all my friends that reach out to me and help me get over all these little hurdles and speed bumps that I come across. I wouldn't be able to do it without the community and the people reaching out to me. So I'm very thankful all the time for the friends that I have, and for you guys that watch and make me keep wanting to do this for you, because when we're bored and we're sitting on the couch and it's rainy and there's nothing to do, there's nothing more than I like to do than watch my favourite channels. I'm more of a car guy, so I watch channels like the Street Racing channel, Cletus McFarland, 1320, you know, and then you got other guys here in Australia that have boat channels like Seacall Marine, Weekends on the Water, love them guys, Small Town Bassin, Drag Boat Garage. Those channels pretty much keep me pretty busy when I'm I'm not tinkering on the boat, so check them out if you haven't seen them yet. This is what I was talking about. I'm gonna have to take a little notch out of this, as they have here, in order to run the Bricado slide front. So this is the arm I was talking about that was pivoting up and down. So it was hitting on the top here. Take some out of here. I'm not going to chew it out like that one is, because this is my mate Chris's, so I'm not going to make a mess of it. And then we'll refit that on and we'll kick it in the guts to make sure it's not idling at 3000 RPM like it was. VST pumps all back together again. I've notched out the back of that. It looks like the butterflies are a little bit more closed than what they previously were. I'm just about to test it for the first time. Hopefully it's not idling at 3000 RPM like it was earlier. So it's idling at 2000 RPM. I might just adjust it a bit off the butterflies there. Maybe I closed it too much. Ready to test. I've just wound the fuel regulator lift pump up to 8 psi. It was set at 6 just to give it some more fuel. I'm here with my mate Jet. He's going to come for a run. Hopefully it does what it's meant to do. Fingers crossed that new fuel pump may have fixed it, and up in that lift pump 2 psi. Man, touch wood, it hasn't cut out yet. Couldn't really see my dash, but possibly for a little spot there where I put my foot down, we could have clipped 80 mile an hour, but I don't know, that's just for entertainment purposes only. It's between 5,200 and 5,400 RPM. The ECU rev cut on this motor is set at 6.1, 6.4. Whether or not I need to go down to a 26 pitch prop to try get more RPMs or raise this motor a bit more, but I don't have a low water pickup gearbox. I'm very limited to how high I can set this motor without losing water pressure. It's definitely different trying to feel and work out what the boat's doing and how it responds with the heavier motor on the back, but it seems to feel pretty good. What do you reckon, Jet?
Far out. So quick, way too quick. Bloody hell, it's probably the fastest boat I've been in, so yeah, nah, something different, eh? Something different.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
But hopefully it continues to keep doing what it's meant to do, and we'll keep bringing you some more footage. Okay, so here we are. As I said, I'd get back to you when I pull this VST pump apart. I've got my beanie with my head torch on because my workshop light has broken. But I've pulled the screws off the top of this VST pump and I'll pull it apart and give you a look at what we've got. There is a lot of crap and debris. I'll tip this out into the container so you can see what is in here. There is definitely a lot of gunk and grime. There's a bit of rust there. And there's a lot of sludge down in there as well. So that should be a good replacement as opposed to this. That is just putrid. So I'll take care of that tomorrow. The boat's ready to drop in the morning. We've got the other VST on there. Just got to bump the pickup pump up a few more PSI just to ensure that feeding it enough fuel, fingers crossed, it does some boating shit. We can go out and test it and hopefully have no dramas and get rid of that cutting out issue. Stick around, we'll turn the cameras on and you'll come along for the ride. Another little after work update for you, tinkering around. I've got under here, fitted up aluminium plate, and I've had some custom bracketry made here. Brackets have really stiffened up everything. Very stiff, as you can see. And if you sit in that seat there and move the wheel, that dash is rock solid. These brackets, there's two of these per side, one for on top of the outside of the boat and one on the inside, and it has an eyelet on it. And so the theory is here where you can see my front steering brass pulleys here. I'm going to mount these somewhere on the boat here. Once they're mounted to the boat, I'll get some wire and I'll make up some safety loops. It will be pinned up here by a little P-clamp, so then that wire will not inhibit this steering whatsoever. If the worst was to happen and we hit a turtle, a dugong, rock bar, sandbank, a tree, anything of that nature, as we know, it's always a pretty bad outcome. And if one of these smaller front pulleys of the steering was to let go, we wouldn't end up with a major incident, or will limit the ability of a major incident from being worse than what it can be. Obviously, if that pulley was to let go there, you've instantly got probably 2 meters of slack cable coming out at you. So in hindsight, that bracket that would be mounted somewhat on the outside of the boat there, obviously with the eyelet downwards like that as such, it would catch it and relieve some of that instant tension that would possibly come back on that wire. Another little above and beyond safety measure, there would be one over in that corner and one in this corner, and as we said, if any of them let go, it would hopefully catch that wire, even if the wire was to let go, and just reduce that as such. fuel pump, I think. I don't know. Well, as in true Boatz in the Hood fashion, I just thought I couldn't go on Anzac Day without a tow in the hood. So obviously in the video, we're coming through there and hit a bit of chop and the power's cut out to the motor. I've gone over the motor, but I can't seem to find any loose wires or any reason for the power to not be there. When I turn the key, usually you can hear the VST pump hum and come on, but when I turn the key, I'm not getting any power to the VST. So we'll get a tow home and back home and diagnose it. Jet, you get to experience true Boatz in the Hood's fashion. Have you ever had a tow before?
Only a few times, but
This is where you're going to see one of those ducks pop up in the video where I say F my life. In hindsight, I think I've broken down twice already. Well, this is the third time, but obviously in earlier episodes I broke down at this exact spot at night time where the Kiwi boys helped me, and there was another time when we spun the hub in the prop and chewed the teeth out of the prop. So this is the third time in this exact area, but with an electrical issue, I gather. So oh well,
hopefully next time we can get past it.
yeah, beautiful day to be broken down. And yeah, that's it.
That's what it is.
We'll wrap it up, and that will be the conclusion to another episode. And may the adventures continue to roll in, because love it. Why wouldn't you want to do this boating?
Why would
I think I might get myself a bonfire and just every payday just throw my money into the bonfire, save me coming out here. So the volunteer marine rescues come to rescue us, and they've come straight towards us and they've run straight into the sandbank and beached themselves. Hopefully they don't need a rescue to come rescue us. Oh man, surely these guys would know that there's a sandbank there. Anyway, it's always an adventure. The last time we went out and it broke down and we got towed in, as we do, tows in the hood. I brought the boat home and I completely pulled all the conduit and all the tape and all the crap off all the wiring on the motor. I went over absolutely every wire on the motor. As you can see, I've gone through everything and checked out all the wiring to the fuel pump, the earths. So I cleaned a lot of the wiring, I looked at it, I made sure nothing was broken or sus, and the only thing I could come across via the motor was down here in the back, my battery. I grabbed onto the terminals and I moved them, and to be honest, the earth on the battery did have a little bit of play in it. So in hindsight, that could explain every time I hit some serious chop or wash and the boat moved or jiggled, that earth possibly could have jiggled on the terminal. I cleaned up the terminal, I cleaned inside the earth, which bolts down on there. It did have very light crimping pressure. So what I did was I just, I got a grinder and I just ground out the inner of the clamping terminal, just as to give it more gap, so when I tightened the bolt it had more clamping pressure. I've put that back on and I've gone back to the key, and straight away when I hit the key the VST pump fires straight up. Fingers crossed. Once again, gonna go out, gonna give it some curry, and we're gonna see if we fixed our issue and we could have some smooth sailing for better boating days to come. So that's where we're at, and thanks again for your support and sticking around, and I hope I can bring you a laugh at the expense of the turmoil and the and the hardships that I go through. So yeah, cheers.